It is time to touch our bags and drop our sacks on this edition of the Kansas City Chiefs Report. I am Tyler Jones, your fearless leader here with you. You got questions, you're in luck because I got answers. I've already taken a sneak peek into the mailbag. You guys have asked me some trade ideas for guys like Tyler Higbee and Kelee Ringo. We'll examine all of those and more coming up in just a moment. Let's start with this question from Tony. Tony, you made the mailbag this week, Tony. All right. Tony wants to know, #Chiefs. You know, Tyler, I'm a little concerned about Rasheed Rice, Xavier Worthy suspensions. When we'll get an update on it, I'll take it day by day, but I need to know how long it will take for both. It's a great question, Tony. I don't have a great answer for you. I know that it kind of defeats the purpose of the mailbag, but I would guess that the NFL is letting the legal process play out when it comes to Rasheed Rice. Hopefully, we have an answer before the season begins. Xavier Worthy, that situation's a little more tricky because charges were dismissed. So does that mean that escalates the process for the NFL, potentially speaking? But even with that said, I'm not worried about a suspension for either one of them, and let me explain why I'm not. The Chiefs won a lot of football games last year without Rasheed Rice. And you got some other guys now, like Hollywood Brown, Juju, Jalen Royals, that were either not healthy or not a part of the equation last year. Let's say worst case scenario, both these guys are out the first 6 games of the season. You can get by for a few weeks without these guys. And in Rasheed Rice's case, that means just more time to recover from injury potentially. So I'm not worried. I think they're going to be fine either way, even if the suspensions do happen. I'm personally rooting for no suspensions, that they get cleared and everything's okay, but we'll have to wait and see. Newton writes in, running back room should not include Carson Steel. What do you think? I agree. And I hate it for Carson because he's gritty. He's a tough football player. Incredible story, being a former UDFA and everything, but he literally fumbled away his opportunity. I mean, number one job of running back is you got to protect football. Can't be dropping the bread. And Carson Steel dropped that bread one too many times last year. And that's why he got benched, and that's why we hardly saw him in the second half of the season, even when the run game was disappearing after Isaiah Pacheco came back and Kareem Hunt didn't look the same as he did in the first half of the season. Part of it had to do with the offensive line situation. But you got better options than Carson Steel. I mean, with what you did in the draft, bringing in Brashard, you signed Elijah Mitchell as well. Carson can hang around the practice squad potentially, but I would be surprised at this point if he makes the 53-man roster. Folks, want to make sure you're not only subscribed, but you stay up to date with everything happening on your Kansas City Chiefs as we bring you daily videos here on the channel, from news and rumors to interactive Q&A mailbags like you're seeing here. We do these every Tuesday. We answer the questions in real time as it happens, folks. Maybe you want to be a part of our next mailbag segment. Well, guess what? If you subscribe and turn on notifications, you'll be the first to know when we go live and when we have new content, and you can get your questions on our next mailbag show. Subscribe now for free, youtube.com/ChiefsTV. Turn on notifications. Stay up to date with everything. We got you covered here on the Chiefs Report. KC fans are the best writes in, could the Kansas City Chiefs trade for Tyler Higbee? So Tyler Higbee of the Los Angeles Rams, I think, has been kind of an underrated tight end in football. Last year he was banged up, only played in 3 games. But you can see the numbers, not bad for the most part. 560 yards in 2021, 620 in 2022, nearly 500 in 2023. Talk is that the Rams are potentially looking to move on from Tyler Higbee. I don't think you necessarily need him. I like Noah Gray, and I like Jared Wiley. I think they're both fine when it comes to being number 2 and 3 tight ends, and I think Wiley's got a higher ceiling than Noah Gray does potentially. But Higbee, for a 7th-round pick, take a flyer on him, especially since we're still waiting on Wiley's status coming back from injury. I'm not opposed to it, but I'm not breaking the bank to bring in Tyler Higbee if that happens. So, yeah, I could see something for a very cheap cost, by all means, that could make sense for Tyler Higbee. Your chance to be the GM here, the Kansas City Chiefs Report. Should the Chiefs trade for Tyler Higbee? Type T for trade, P for pass. We'll enter pin comment today. Tell us what you think. $5 super chat rolled in from Shad Jameson. What's up, Shad? Do you think KC should do the old Belichick philosophy and trade Chris Jones a year too early while he's in his prime and has value? Yes, I do. Does that mean at the end of 2025? No. But maybe at the end of 2026. Yes. Yes. That time is coming. We saw it firsthand with Joe Thuney. Moving on from him, sending him to the Bears for a 4th-round pick. It is a big contract. We've already seen Chris Jones take a slight step back. He's not the same player that he used to be a couple years ago. He's still one of the very best in the league. But, yeah, I do. And I know that's a tough pill to swallow for some fans. I love Chris Jones, CEO of Sack Nation, future first ballot Hall of Famer. But eventually that decision, Chiefs are going to have to make. I would be surprised if it's next offseason, but 2026 very well could be when they potentially move on after the 2026 season. I think he's got at least 2 more years in Kansas City, Shad, but we'll see. Donkeys writes in, should the Chiefs trade for Kelee Ringo? So, Kelee Ringo was drafted out of Georgia, and there was high hopes and expectations for him with the Philadelphia Eagles, but we've seen that the Eagles have done a fantastic job of developing these corners. Despite what some people may say, Cooper DeJean is athletic as hell. I think that Cooper DeJean is fantastic. I love Quinyon Mitchell as well. And Kelee Ringo's kind of just fallen out of graces, got kind of passed up of sorts with how much depth the Eagles have, and they hardly ever played him last year. His numbers were down in every category. Did not have an interception, only had 1 pass breakup. I still think he's a good football player, but I think he's kind of just lost in the shuffle there in Philadelphia. 6th or 7th round pick, potentially add him, but I think that's a luxury. I think Kansas City is much better off at corner than what some may realize. I'm a big believer in Noel Williams. I think Fulton's good. Watson, of course, you have an all-pro in Trent McDuffie. I don't hate the idea, but it's not something you have to do. It's not make or break to bring in Ringo. He's one that if he's a post-June 1 cut, that might be more intriguing to get him on a discount and see about him competing for a roster spot. Maybe not have to even give up a pick in a trade. But Kelee Ringo, yeah, that could be a possibility. Should the Chiefs trade for Kelee Ringo? Here's your chance to sound off in the comments section. Tell us what you think. Type Y for yes, in for no. Should they make a move for Ringo or not? Tell me what you think. Newton writes in, Sky Moore just hasn't performed as the team expected. It's time to move on. I wish him luck and show him all due respect for being a Super Bowl champion. Look, Brett Veach is as good of a GM as you're going to find in American tackle professional football. But you can't get everyone right. And Sky Moore was a miss. And it sucks that you used a 2nd-round pick on him. You certainly could have needed his help with how much this receiving core changed after Tyreek Hill left. But Sky Moore struggled to stay healthy, and even when he's been healthy, he's been passed up on the depth chart mightily. It just hasn't worked. And I think the next few weeks are going to be very telling for Sky Moore. We've heard that he's putting in the work this offseason, that it looks like a new Sky Moore, but I'll believe it when I see it. Let's see him perform well at OTAs and potentially training camp. But if not, if he looks subpar, then I think he's a roster cut when we get to the 53-man later on this offseason. Mike writes in, do you really see any other AFC West teams actually having a chance at winning the West this year? I don't, but that doesn't mean the Broncos and Chargers aren't good. I think the Chargers are a very talented football team. They're well coached with Jim Harbaugh. Justin Herbert, I think, is the top 10 quarterback in this league easily. The defense has improved a lot under Harbaugh already. I think the Chargers are a good team. I look at the Denver Broncos. Bo Nix, he surprised me. I still think that eventually reality is going to catch up with him, and I think he's going to have a career like Mac Jones, if we're going to be honest. They have some good receivers, good backs, really good offensive line there. I think the Broncos are a good team, but I don't think either one is to the caliber of Kansas City. I think they're both playoff teams. I think each of them are capable of winning 10-plus games. But winning the division, I would be very surprised if the Broncos or Chargers are within a game of Kansas City of an AFC West title. Last question comes from Mike. Mike wants to know, is Essa better than Wanya Morris at tackle? TBD. TBD on that. And there's talk about Wanya Morris playing guard potentially. I think it's too early to tell, but I will say that Essa was a bit of a steal for a UDFA. I thought he was going to be picked somewhere between the 4th and 6th round. So I'm excited to see what he could potentially do and give him a chance. But too early to say if he's better than Wanya Morris or not. He will get a shot. He'll get a chance to prove himself. But we will have to wait and see on that. But I'm intrigued. I'm fascinated to see what he potentially does. Folks, thank you. Yes, you. For joining us here on this edition of the Kansas City Chiefs Report. For continuing coverage, subscribe now and turn on notifications. YouTube.com/ChiefsTV. I'm Tyler Jones. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.